Let's talk about the 1993 film Poetic Justice, starring Janet Jackson and Tupac Shakur.
Poetic Justice tells the story of what happens when two people who start out at each other's throats take a road trip together up the coast of California.
I'm Heit.
And I'm Cheri.
And you've discovered Axiom Amnesia.
We want to thank all of the supporters who helped to make this video possible. If you want your name to appear alongside these contributors, make a one-time donation via Cash App, or you can head on over to patreon.com/Axiom Amnesia to enjoy all of the benefits of becoming a monthly subscriber.
So 1993, we had a little resurgence because, in the early 90s, we had some black movies coming out and stuff. And they were just basically like hood movies, you know what I'm saying? Violence, dope and stuff, but we also had in the late 80s, we had some party type stuff, like House Party, some fun things. And then we kind of got a chance to get into some romance sort of a genre, you know what I'm saying? Around the time we get Poetic Justice.
Yeah, like a hood love story, if you will. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to actually run down the movie. Not that doesn't mean just talk bad about it, right? That just means we're going to tell you the stuff that happens in the movie so that you can know what happens and discuss some of the major themes along the way. So the first thing first, let's talk about the main characters. We got Janet Jackson, who plays Justice. We have Tupac Shakur, who plays Lucky. We have Regina King. I love Regina King. And, she still is acting and stuff to this day, who plays Aisha. And then Joe Torre plays Chicago. And so what you really have here is Janet is a singer. Tupac was a rapper. Joe Torre was or is a comedian. And Regina King is an actress who was a child star. Y'all probably remember her from 227 way back in the 80s. So this is interesting to me because a lot of the people that we saw in the films of the 90s that got popular were musicians or rappers, because that's when we first saw a lot of people starting to act, Tupac and LL.
Yeah, but somebody's going to argue that Tupac wasn't just a rapper. He was a thespian and a dancer and all that other stuff.
Yes,
right?
And he was, because he was with Digital Underground and dancing background for them back before he even became a rapper. But I guess my point is that these, and same with Janet Jackson, she's been acting all of her life since she was a child. Y'all remember Penny from Good Times. So all of these actors, and I think this might be something that's a little bit different than today. All of these people who acted in this film, they did many things. It was like you had to be like a triple threat or have, do more than just one thing. And when I look around today, sometimes I feel like the people who are famous they're barely good at the one thing they're famous for, but I digress.
It might have been like that back then too, though.
One thing,
you have to be a social media expert, basically, and an influencer too nowadays on top of that. So,
what happens? The movie starts out where we learn about Janet Jackson's character, Justice. Now, she's been named Justice because her mother was in law school when she had her and all of this. And she's there at the drive-in theater with her boyfriend, who is played by Q-Tip, the rapper, right? And then her boyfriend is tragically killed at this drive-in, through violence, right? And so she goes through this depression after this, and she's clearly traumatized because it happens right in front of her while they're sitting in the car. And then as they're setting up these characters, we also find out that, Tupac's character, Lucky, has one child, and he works at the post office. And his baby mama is drug addicted. And so, the kid is being neglected.
Talking about your yamp ass.
Oh, here we go again. Simple Nick in my house again.
And then we also see in these scenes another rapper, Tone Loc, what was Tone Loc's most famous song in your opinion?
Me So Horny, Funky Cold Medina, those two.
Oh, okay. I was thinking Funky Cold Medina. For whatever reason, whenever I think of Tone Loc, I think of that song.
And he was in Bebe's Kids.
So, here again, another rapper. And so
It's like I'm her daddy anyway, since they came from the same old tired ass hooker.
Tone Loc's character is the other baby daddy.
Yeah.
He's J-Bone,
Oh.
the other baby daddy of Lucky's baby mama, if that makes sense. She got
Yeah.
two baby daddies. Both of them are rappers.
And before this, I don't know if you mentioned, but Q-Tip, the rapper.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the one who was Janet Jackson Justice's boyfriend.
Yeah, from A Tribe Called Quest.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, that's what he would have been. He wouldn't have just been Q-Tip. He's Q-Tip from A Tribe Called Quest.
Okay. So each of these characters, you find in a little bit about them. So we're also introduced to Chicago, played by Joe Torre. And Chicago and Lucky work together.
Why don't you have that crazy hoe you fuck with to hook me up with one of her partners?
Now, Lucky delivers mail. He's a mailman. Whereas Chicago works like in the sorting, in the mail sorting. At
Mail room, yeah.
Yeah, in the
Whatever,
mail
sorting,
room, at the post office. So they interact and they know one another this way. And then we also know of Aisha, who is Janet Jackson's character's friend, Justice's friend.
Just telling everybody's business. I tell your business too.
So we got, these two people who are friends with one another, right? Four people who are friends with each other. And Justice is also a hairstylist. And we're introduced to the cast of characters who work at the hair salon with her.
When you gonna get a man? Always asking me these questions about mine.
And the one thing that I think is iconic about Janet's look in here are the braids. Like back in the day when this movie came out, these looks affected. Well, number one, she took the look from the culture. They took the look from the culture because people were already wearing the braids. You see the braids that look like Aisha's braids, and then the bigger box braids you see with Janet. The people were wearing those braids. Like that was just, that was the look.
And you couldn't tell if it was a braid hat.
Which is because wasn't it a braid hat in Don't Be a Menace while
Maybe.
drinking
I
your
don't
juice in
even
the hood?
know.
I think Yvette Wilson's character Colette, R.I.P. Yvette Wilson, because she's the one who played on Moesha. She played the lady who owned the little hangout spot that they used to go to on Moesha, and Yvette Wilson, and she played that. Yeah, so she played in Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. She played in there with the kind of character who said she looked like Janet Jackson, but was a few pounds heavier. So this is going on. They're setting up all of these different characters. We know some of their problems. Lucky has the problem with his baby mama, and then he actually winds up having to fight his baby mama's a guy she was at the house kind of like fooling around with the kids there and everything. And then he's like, I'm taking my daughter to my mama's house. Now, who is playing his mama? The mother of everybody from the 90s.
Jennifer Lewis.
Yes, it's his mother in here. And so, like,
Jennifer Lewis got to be 132 or something.
But she still looked young.
She probably was 18 years old playing these people's parents.
Well, and think about this, right? I'm not sure what the age difference between Jennifer Lewis and Angela Bassett is, but Jennifer Lewis played Angela Bassett's mother back in the 90s when she did What's Love Got to Do with It.
Bruh.
And they can't be
Jennifer Lewis is they're like a year apart.
And she played her mother in that movie. That's kind of a funny thing. But so Jennifer Lewis has just always been motherly. So she's the mother. So he takes his little baby girl to go and live with his mother.
Well, you just remember that show, baby. I'm done raising kids.
So he's not like, oh, I'm about to take custody of my child and take care of her and do whatever. He's like, I'm bringing her to my mother's house where I'm at.
Are you gonna take care of her?
Yeah, so
just a mess already.
yeah, it's crazy, but we do get to see what type of characters they are, right? So he's just a hard-working guy. He get off work, he drink his little beer or whatever.
It's 40 ounce.
Yeah, and then he go and check on his daughter, pick up his daughter.
Do people
was
still
he going
drink
to
40
pick her up, or
ounces?
was he just going to see her? because
He was
she
just going
seemed
to see her, and well, he would have called it pick her up, right? It would be, I'm going to pick my daughter up. I see her all the time, which really means you're going to go over there and, you know, spend a little time, do a little something with her.
When I hear
I don't
pick
know
up,
if
I
you
don't think, I think you have to leave.
Yeah, I think you do have to leave, but
so
he ain't leaving.
So he probably wouldn't say pick up. He going to see his daughter. He go see his daughter, and then he's like, "Oh, it's a man up in here." And that guy is the one who was in Boys, Don't Be a Menace, Tales from the Hood, right? And some other stuff, you know. Maybe he was in the Soul Food movie. I don't know, but anyway, so he goes over there and he sees this, right? And so his baby mama is kind of not like him, right? She just seems to be no good, and he just working. He's just a regular guy, right? Which makes it, you know, a different type of hood movie that white folks at the time probably wouldn't understand, that it's every black person in the hood is not violent and all that, right? You just, you know, living your life and working. You know, there are people who do that.
Yes. You know, so that's the setup for them. And we see Janet Jackson lives like in a nice big house, and she lives there alone. And, you know, she's going through her depressive episodes over the loss of her boyfriend, and just kind of, I feel like, because she's alone in the world, right? And while we're seeing these different montages of what her life is like and as she's living life, we're also given voiced over her actually saying what's supposed to be Justice's poetry, which was really Maya Angelou's poetry in this film, which I also thought was really nice.
Time of secret wooing. Today prepares.
For back then, you know, there was also a resurgence of poetry, spoken word, and all of that. And so I feel like this is the first film that I remember of this era in the 90s where the focus was poetry and writing in this way. Go to the comments and let me know if I'm wrong about this. But I feel like I didn't see films that, you know, centered on poetry this way.
Off the top, I can't remember anything.
So then we go along, and now we're going to just like really get to the story where it all goes down. The way that Lucky and Justice first meet is that she's working at the salon or whatever, and then Lucky comes in to deliver the mail to the salon. He's trying to flirt with her and everything. And then I thought this was so funny in the theater when I saw this originally. But she and her female boss, who's played by Tyra Farrell, and y'all remember Tyra Farrell, she played Doughboy and Ricky's mama in Boys in the Hood, okay? Then they act like they're a couple, and they blow their... Janet Jackson asked this question, and she's like, "You want to smell my punani?
You want to smell my punani?"
And then, of course, Lucky's thinking she's flirting back, and Lucky is like...
And he's like, yeah. And then she calls her over, you know, Tyra Farrell's character.
You want to smell my punani?
And then, you get the...
And she blows her breath in his face.
And then he rushes out of there.
Because, and so that's how they initially meet. So they're clearly at odds. He's trying to holla. So Justice's friend, Aisha, she's talking to her boyfriend, who is Chicago. So she gets him to have a road trip for them to go up, you know, and go on this road trip. At the same time, Justice is supposed to be going to the hair show. Basically, what needs to happen is they all need to go to Oakland. We have Justice and Aisha. They're going for a hair show, and then Justice's car conks out at the last minute. And then the only way that she can get to Oakland is to go with Aisha's boyfriend to Oakland. And he's driving the mail truck up there, right? So it's like a road trip. And she doesn't know at the time, but guess who else is going? Lucky. So when she gets to the mail truck and she's like, "Oh, no, I ain't going in a, you know, road trip with this guy," because she's already pissed off. Her car is not working. She's got to make it to Oakland for this hair show because she, you know, she's a hairstylist. And now she's forced to go in this truck because it's the only way she can get there.
Aisha. Why? I ain't doing this.
And this is how they wind up on this road trip together, which I think for the film, and by the way, this is a John Singleton film. I think that what was good was that everybody kind of starts off the trip like frazzle dazzled, especially Justice, right? Because she's just like, man, I get out trying to go to this thing. I can't go because my car isn't working. And now I'm in, in this foreign environment with these dudes I don't want to be in this truck with, and my friend Aisha,
Yeah, and the mail truck isn't comfortable. I
That
don't
part.
think so. And it's like a 6-hour drive.
And there's not even seats.
In a
only
regular
the front.
car.
Yeah.
In a regular car, that's how long it probably take you. And then I don't even know if the speed limits back then have been, were lower than they are now, because there's this, increase in speed limits all over the country, but I don't know.
I know when I was growing up, boy, if you had 65 speed limit, you were going fast, fast, fast.
So yeah, that's another thing. And I don't even know if they have AC or had AC.
Well,
those
I
trucks.
doubt they did. Speaking of people driving those trucks around, y'all heard about the UPS man? It was so hot, and then he wound up like passing out and, passing away after just being out there in the heat and just, heat exposed, and then wound up dying. So, as time goes on, Lucky and Justice are at each other's throats, and then they start kind of talking because they're naturally just coupled up, right? And so the way this movie goes is this road trip consists of like these different stops. They stop at the gas station, and then they stop at, other places along the way. So we'll talk about each one of those. So when they stop to the gas station to get gas, then they're going in and everything. And this was the first time I ever saw Regina King in like a ratchet role, if you will, because prior to this, I had only seen Regina King. Well, no, I take that back. But she didn't really have that many parts in Boys in the Hood, because she was the friend that was up on the porch, but like not where she has lines and, all of that. Look, she was Goody Two Shoes Brenda from 227 before this. And if you've never seen an episode of 227 because you're young, just go check out an episode or two, because this was like a nice, cool black sitcom that folks liked. And because they had young people and older people on it, it appealed to a broad audience. Your parents could like it and you could like it at the same time.
And you had nothing else to watch, so you was watching it anyway.
That part. So they stopped to get everything, and Aisha is like, you want your OE? Oh, they ain't got your OE.
Y'all ain't got no OD?
Girl, they don't sell that outside the black neighborhood.
Right. And so my question was, do they still drink 40 ounces today?
Do they? I don't know.
Anybody? Because personally, I never drank a 40 ounce. But at this point, 40 ounces just became popular. I feel like they became popular as part of the culture, right? Maybe people were always drinking 40 ounces prior to this. But what I can tell
Some people don't think that negative things are part of a culture. So because it may symbolize some sort of, or point towards some sort of alcoholism or alcohol abuse or drug abuse, then it's
not part of the culture. Okay, well, how about this? Back then, when I looked around, and you're aware of what the culture of liquor that is being, or any type of alcoholic beverage that is popular, right? Because back then, they had come out with what they call wine coolers, right? And now they're popular, and you have all of these mixed drinks in a can and all that. But that was popular, and I remember people being St. Ides and OE, right? Old English 800. And those names became popular. It's probably like from generations maybe earlier, Colt 45. And if you've never seen the Colt 45 commercials, go look up on YouTube. Go look up Billy D. Williams in the Colt 45 commercials, because, and that's beer for those of you who don't know, because he was a, popular black actor who was, selling the malt liquor. This is kind of like the same thing, but, so even mention of OE is, happened in this film, and it was significant because when you looked around, younger people, that's one of the things, that was a popular drink that they were drinking in the 40 ounce fashion. Now, back to my original question, go to the comments and let me know, are people still drinking 40 ounces? Is that still a thing, or, not? So they stop, and we realize that before they get on the road good, alcohol and Aisha, she got to have it, and she already has a way that she's fixing her alcohol up and everything like that.
Damn, Misha, this ain't no 40.
Oh, they didn't have no OD.
And so it's clear that they, number one, their relationship is not that great, Aisha in Chicago, and that they about to be drinking, which, as we know, is kind of a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy though? Like leading up to this, I think it was that this was like almost halfway.
Mm-hmm.
The movie was almost halfway done when we get to the point where they're on the road.
Because you got to set everybody up. He got to fight. He got to go get his baby and all of that. And the other reason that Lucky is going to Oakland is because his cousin who, you know, does music is there, and he's going to visit his cousin and his aunt and uncle and whatever there in Oakland. So he's got family there. So let's just talk about, because this would probably be the easier thing to do. Let's talk about Aisha in Chicago and get that out of the way about what happens on this trip. So they wind up stopping at a family reunion. Now, they smell barbecue and they're like, let's stop and eat, right?
What's that smell?
Smell like barbecue to me.
Now, I'm thinking the boldness that it must take, because I can't imagine stopping at like a barbecue or anywhere that I'm not invited, a family reunion, and then thinking I could just get a plate. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Does black culture allow that in the 90s?
I don't know that on the West Coast, but I watched this video just yesterday probably, where this guy is talking about what happened to the South. And he's talking about he moved from New York and the South was just different back then, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that the culture has changed. One thing that we talk about is how you talking about, hey, you need to call somebody before you stop by.
Yeah.
And back in my day, you just go by, right? And being from the South, some people said,
well, back in your day, they didn't have a way to call ahead of time if you were
had
already
a
out.
Phone, but
yeah,
still.
but if you were already out, you didn't have really cell phone to just be running up minutes.
Okay, so in the 90s, you were saying people just stopped by up north?
Maybe not.
All right, so I don't,
Well, okay, you're right. Okay, so that's the difference between the culture.
All right. So that's one thing. So basically, things have changed, and I don't know. I think may have been different, but point is, people offer strangers, right? Hey, if you at the park and they're having a family reunion barbecue, you may ask, right? From where I'm from, but in the culture that I'm from. But I don't know if that happens so much so anymore because things are changing, and you know, as we get more entrenched in capitalism and, you know, this individualism stuff.
Less of a sense of community.
Yeah,
you're like, I bought all this food. You can't come.
You ain't put in and all this other stuff, and you just freeloading and why they looking at us over here eating?
Yeah.
So, and who are you? We need to know who you are to know if you deserve the food at the barbecue and all that other stuff, right?
Well, it reminds me of that crawfish boil. The very first time that I went to your hometown for Easter, and there was a seafood boil, and you know the mainstay was the crawfish, and there were people who like showed up.
For the people who's not from there, the mainstay was.
Well, okay, so
Chris called the crawfish boil.
It's a crawfish boil.
I know, and if you're not from there, it's a seafood boil.
Yeah.
The mainstay is the crawfish. You don't know how funny it is to me. It's funny.
Okay, so we always go through these things about, you know, because we have culture clashes. Heit and I do, because we're not from the same culture. You know, we're both black, obviously, in America, but we each have different, I guess you would call it maybe subcultures or whatever you want to call it. Because, you know, within our culture of being Americans and being black Americans, you know, we each come from different parts of the country, sort of, or at least I was raised in a different part of the country, right? And you know, we have different customs. And so the language is different. Everything is different in the way that we would present things is different. And then we laugh at each other for our differences somehow.
So it was a crawfish boil.
Uh-huh.
You were telling the story.
Yes. So we were at the crawfish boil and it was family, right? So it's like, you know, family, extended family, cousins and whoever else, right? So it's like all these people, you know, and then I would imagine any plus ones or twos, anybody, like you need to be 1 degree of separation to be showing up here, generally speaking, is my thought, right? You know somebody who's there and they say, okay, you could come eat. But there were people who I don't think knew You know, it was like in the neighborhood, and the people from the neighborhood just kind of came and but it was huge. It wasn't just like a backyard barbecue, because, you know, you'd have to be bold to go to somebody's backyard like that. But it was like more in an open park area, and people just came up and they ate too, and it was okay. And nobody was like, I bought that crawfish, you know. And I really like that about the culture, because I don't know that could have happened.
Yeah.
You know,
it happens all the time, you know, because that was my point, right? I don't know how it was on the West Coast and stuff, but I know people would ask you, hey, you want some crawfish? You know, you don't even know these people. And then it depends on, I guess, your personality. If you be like, hell yeah, I want some of them crawfish. But some people might just be like, hey, what's up with this crawfish? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they might ask and you say, go ahead and have some. Because I also, you know, like we went to this death thing one time.
This death thing?
I don't know, because I don't know how to characterize it, because it's not, it's
like a memorial maybe.
But no. So it's not, okay, let me explain to y'all who are not from Louisiana.
They don't do this anywhere.
Okay, when you're having funerals, right, there's the funeral where, you know, you have the actual service or the memorial service, or, you know, or funeral, right?
Yeah.
You have that at the church, at the funeral home, wherever, right? And
maybe
then you
it's a repast,
okay, yes, then there is the repast, right? Now that's where, you know, it's, to me, the repast is more official, not where you go to the family's house after the repast, but I mean, like, the repast might be, you know, where, you know, you eat food or whatever. And sometimes you have a pre-pass, because I've been to some where you eat before the service. If the service was in the morning, they might do a breakfast or something. So there, we wind up going to a place, because it was with your mom, and it was somebody who she knew, right? That was, you know, had passed on.
Yeah.
And so we just said, hey, we'll stop by, because, you know, you're like paying your respects. We didn't go to actual funeral. Let us pay our respects where they're gathering. So that's what we went to do. So we get there, it's out in a park, and there is this like huge cauldron and it smells amazing. Okay. And it's like a huge cauldron of stew looking, it's kind of tinted reddish brown, and it smells amazing. It's like, okay,
it's called a sauce.
It's called a sauce. All right. And it's got these beets in. I didn't even know what it was, but it smelled so good.
Because you might not want to know.
Okay. See, this is another thing. The cultural differences. So,
and they might not want you to know either.
And they might not want you to know what's in there. But it smelled so amazing. I was like, okay, it don't even matter. It smells so good. Like, let's just put this over rice. Because mind you, this is also where I'm, you know, being introduced to more and more things. That was the first time I had ever had a sauce. So, but when we got there, you know, we weren't like, give me a plate too. Even though we came for the purpose, you know, we like waited for them to invite us. Well, and we didn't specifically wait for that, but in the process of talking to them and, you know, paying our respects, they were like, oh, you know, get a plate kind of a thing. And it was so delicious. I still don't know what that was, but it was amazing. The food, it just was good.
Yeah.
That's
and
one thing I give
probably,
Louisiana. The food is so amazing.
I guess you could call them Cajun people.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah. Which is pretty close to like the Creole culture, right? When it comes to the foods and stuff. So,
right.
Yeah.
And for those of you all who don't know, Heit is Creole. So he's speaking from a place of not just like, he's part of that culture versus, you know, how people will just throw around things and be like, I'm Cajun, I'm Creole, whatever. No, he actually is. Because your ancestry says it too, doesn't it?
Bruh.
Anyhow, all right. So back to Poetic Justice. We just totally digress. But like, is it realistic? Go to the comments and let us know. Have y'all ever seen people barbecuing or a family reunion or a wedding? Because I hear that's a popular thing now, showing up to a wedding, any other kind of celebration that you do not belong at and you're going there to eat.
So what y'all gonna do?
Shit, we gonna eat.
You crazy? This ain't your family.
Let me know if you've ever done that, or if you know people who've done it, or if people who have done that to you. So they're there, and then they, you know, obviously at the family reunion, there are going to be young people and everything. And so then Aisha starts flirting with the man at this family reunion because, mind you, you know, she been drinking.
Honey done the man in the moon. He do.
We see Chicago getting upset about it.
But before that, they kind of act like they were family, right? So they
pretended.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. Yeah.
So they got there, and then somebody was like, "Who are you?" You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And then he just basically like, Cousin Pete. Hey.
Cousin! What's up, cousin? What's up?
I ain't seen you and I don't know where.
What's up, cousin? So now they're just family. That's established, right?
They welcomed them in.
Yeah, they welcomed them in. And then, because, family reunion, do you really know everybody there? And then do you go and find a person whose son he would be or whatever? You know what I'm saying? It's
Probably
just,
not. You just like, oh, okay. But I never been to a family reunion that was this big. Like the ones I've been to, I know or knew like everybody.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. I've never been to a family
I've
reunion.
probably only been to one family reunion.
I've only been to a couple.
I didn't know all them people, man.
But I knew everybody, or if I didn't know everybody, like I'm like, oh, they were with so and so, so I'm assuming that's their whatever,
It was so many people. So I ran into somebody who was a Facebook friend, like, oh, I didn't even know we were related, bro.
That you have told me that story more than once, or you're like, oh yeah, I'm related to them somehow, or whatever. And I just think
keep
that's
finding
so
out
amazing.
stuff all the time, like, oh, I'm related to this person. That's
you
crazy.
done went to the whole of high school with that person and everything. So yeah, so they're there, but Aisha starts flirting. She's flirting with the guy there, and I'm like, okay, if you're at a family, are people flirting at the family reunion? Is that what we doing? We flirting with folks at the family reunion? Well, that's probably the problem. Right? They was like, hey, she does this alcohol. So then, she's just very inappropriate. So I don't think so. But maybe if you're going with a friend, right? And do you take friends to family reunions? I think people do sometimes.
Yeah.
Now,
as
especially
an official
now.
thing, right? Though, because somebody like, take me to your family reunion so I can holler at your kinfolks.
Maybe, but so the dynamic at the family reunion, you also have like the older women who Maya Angelou actually makes like a cameo or whatever in here. And well, I guess it wouldn't be a cameo because she's not playing herself, but she's playing one of the older women in the family. I think
they call that cameos now.
Okay. So she's playing one of the older women with some other older women, and they're looking at Aisha flirting, and they're like totally judging her.
8 years old, they're flirting with another man. Tell me she's married.
And it's so funny because when this film came out, like I was young, I was like, so I wasn't an Aisha, but maybe I'm like a Justice, right? And so I'm like, look at these old women just judging this girl, but at the same time, I'm also giving Aisha the side eye because she was inappropriate. But they are talking about how inappropriate she is. And then now, fast forward decades later, I'm the old woman and I'm looking at the young people at the family reunion and as they live their lives. And I'm like, just inappropriate. And you never think when you're young that when you get older, you're going to be looking, because you're like, I would never do that when I'm getting, but inevitably it seems to happen.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just the generation, the generation gap, right? That's what my mom used to always say when we were growing up. And we would have a difference of opinion and thoughts and ideas. She would go, well, that's just the generation gap. That was another one of her sayings. Besides, I shouldn't say is another one of her sayings because she doesn't say it as often now, probably because, I'm an adult and we're more alike than we were when I was growing up. But yeah, she would say that. And she would also say, as you guys know, so-and-so has their butt on their back. And shout out to Key, who pointed out that she's the one who said that she's been telling her kids they get their butt on their back when they start cutting up and acting up. So shout out to you for reminding me that it was you. Anyway, so we have this explosive situation ready to happen because you have a guy, she's there, she has a boyfriend, and she's flirting with another man just in the open. Chicago is getting more and more angry.
Hey, see what you gonna do? We got a Chicago, come on.
Oh, girl, Chicago ain't gonna do shit.
Everybody around seems to know what's happening. Lucky looks at it and he's like, he sees that something's about to happen. Justice sees something is about to happen and she goes and like, oh, let me get Aisha, because we about to have trouble.
I had to talk to my friend for a second. What the fuck is wrong with you? Don't you know Chicago gonna kick your ass?
And she tells Aisha like, girl, what are you doing? And Aisha's drunk.
You can't talk to nobody who's drunk or high though. Like,
yeah.
It's just really, there's nothing you could do for the most part. You know what I'm saying?
And but the other part is like she's embarrassing Chicago. She's embarrassing him. And one thing that I would have to mention about Chicago is he has this brush that he carries around with him everywhere. He's always like brushing his hair. So I don't even know what the purpose of it is. This way to get his waves right, whatever. But he's always brushing his hair.
But at the same time, so you got Lucky's risen up Justice too. So that's going on at the same time. So as they get closer, Aisha and Chicago get further away.
Yeah.
Fuck you, you don't own me.
No, it's
you don't
fuck
own
you,
me.
alright? Fuck you, bitch. You and your drunk ass pussy.
Basically split apart.
So when they get back into the mail truck, then, basically Justice is like, I just got to, talk to Aisha.
Pull over somewhere. I need to talk to her. I'm sick of this shit.
And so she's just like, you being drunk, you acting like a drunk bitch, just like my mother.
That's all you do. You act like an alcoholic bitch. Why are you calling me a bitch?
So now it comes out that Justice's mother had a problem with alcohol, and she is triggered because she sees those same behaviors from her friend Aisha.
You always acting crazy. Just like my damn mama.
And she's like, you got to get your life together kind of thing. And then Aisha is, throwing up, and she's, crying and whatever. And she just apologizes for, being out of control and having this substance abuse problem.
Sorry. God, I'm sorry.
She apologized for having a substance abuse
Pretty much that's how it was. I'm sorry. Because at the end of the day, she clearly, well, I don't know. I say she clearly had a problem. But in our discussion of the movie Deliverance, which is new, it is a movie that's starring Andra Day and Monique, and it is a Lee Daniels movie. I'll link that in the description. They are talking about how one of the characters had a drinking problem, and you pointed out that they may or may not have, and I even said they had a drinking problem. They may not be an alcoholic. They might be, they might not be. They may be doing the same things that everybody else does. Be an alcoholic, or other people who are not labeled as alcoholics might be too.
But so Justice actually talks about how she's always drinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this. So maybe that may point more to her having a problem.
Yeah. They stop at this like beach kind of area, or like it looks like a cliff. I mean, and the sights are just beautiful. I've never personally traveled up the coast from Southern California to Northern California, but it looks like a beautiful ride, and I would love to do that someday.
Maybe Pacific Coast Highway.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
That's my guess too. And so when they stop, each of them is thinking about their individual situations and all that are kind of going on, and their inner monologues, because we get to hear the thoughts of all of them, right?
Fuck it. I can just find me another bitch.
So at the next, when they stop again, they wind up at this like carnival, and then Lucky and Justice are still, getting even more and more close. And so after the carnival, Aisha and Chicago just totally implode.
Fuck that Chicago. A couple minutes, my ass. Can't even hang that long.
At this point, their whole relationship.
Just thought I'd give you a little something right quick before I quit your ass, but no, you can't even appreciate that.
And so Aisha, tells Chicago in the process of the fight.
Nigga's dick can't stay hard 5 minutes. The fuck you do? Take steroids?
That she been seeing somebody on the side.
That's the reason why I'm fucking somebody else.
And then Chicago just can't take it no more. And he actually just jumps on her, right? And so then Lucky was like, he gonna mind his business. He's sitting in the truck watching this.
I ain't gonna do nothing.
Hell nah. Shit, that's their business.
And he's like, okay, I'm a mind my business. But then Justice is not going to sit up and let her girl just be getting beat down by this dude.
Get off me!
Shit, you bitch.
So Justice hops out the truck and she goes, and then she kicks Chicago in the ding ding.
Oh shit, I gotta take off you. Oh shit, I gotta
Get
take
the
off
fuck
your
off of her!
And then Chicago starts attacking Justice.
Hey, motherfucker.
It's only when Chicago is attacking Justice that Lucky gets his butt up and does something.
Yeah.
Me. Get off me!
Fuck off her. You all right?
Because, before this, they had another stop off. They went to a carnival and everything, right?
Uh-huh.
And, they stopped off somewhere else. And I think that's where Justice was cleaning his nails and stuff. Like, they got very close, right?
Mm-hmm.
As I said, the other ones were drifting apart. So then, at that point now, he's all in love after about, 4 or 5 hours.
4 or 5 hours with
4 or
Janet
5
Jackson.
hours, however many hours. I don't know how long they stayed at the family reunion. So after those hours, now he's all in love, and he's like, I don't know. He may have known this dude for years. Who knows? But he didn't say, that's a female.
What the fuck is your problem, man? Bitch hit me. Female.
She hit me.
You can't handle no fucking better than that.
I know.
He should have delivered
That's
that
a
line.
female.
That's a female.
Like in Friday.
He was just sitting there. He's like, I ain't getting involved in that. But then when he reached back and smacked the fire out of Justice, then he like, hold on, man.
You can't be hitting the girl I like.
Yeah.
So then
You
he
hit your own
gets up,
girl.
which he should have been up when he saw him attacking a woman.
Well,
Okay. Because because you're there with those people. It's not like this is you interjecting. And even, I mean, the
guess.
argument can be made on
It
the street.
depends how
But
bad it is.
you know this guy.
Yeah.
And yes, Aisha was out of bounds. We're not even arguing that she
What
was
if-
right.
What if I know this dude could beat me down? Now two of us.
So
beat
maybe you
down.
don't. So look, he's all up on her. You just go up and you're like, hey, man, blah, 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 whatever men say to men, and get him to stop
And
aggressing toward her. You don't have to hit him,
You don't
because if
have
he had
to, but-
intervened at that point, he never would have. Okay, so
Or
what
maybe
winds
he
up
still would've
happening
got hit.
is that he winds up going up and knocking out Chicago right after.
You little punk. Oh, coward motherfucker. Hit a man.
And then leaving Chicago there on the side of the road as he takes off with the two
And he threw
women.
his brush.
Hey, hold on, Lucky.
And he threw his brush. But what I'm saying is it never would have been to that point if when he saw things escalate and he was just like, hey, let's just get to Oakland. Let's calm all that down. And, when they get back in the truck, Chicago could have rode up in the front. Justice could have been back in the back with her drunk girlfriend.
Yeah.
And they could have made it on to Oakland. To me,
Yeah.
that would be, but they
think
are
so.
young. They are young, right? You in the early to mid 20s. Y'all young and y'all's conflict resolution skills are not what they need to be. But I think this could have been avoided. And so therefore, I do blame Lucky for not stepping in. And Janet wouldn't have Janet.
Janet.
I want to call her Janet. Justice wouldn't have gotten hit because she wouldn't have had to intervene where the guy who is not only a man,
Yeah.
but who is the friend.
So what was Lucky going to do? He was just going to wait for them to stop whatever they're doing and them to get back into
Lucky
the truck.
didn't care. He just had his nose wide
Well,
open.
you
and
have
was-
to, right? Because what do you do? If
Well,
you're
they
sitting
have
there,
been
I'm not
arguing
going
in
to
the
get
truck, so
involved.
maybe you think they're just going to keep on doing what they've been
Keep
doing.
on fight, but
It's
this is
arguing
fighting
it-
now.
yeah.
So
Well,
at what
yeah.
point, how does it resolve? You can't wait forever, though, too.
I don't know. I think go to the comments. Should Lucky have just gone ahead when he saw it was getting heated between Aisha and Chicago, gone over and been like, hey, man, let's, and then try to diffuse the situation? Or should he sat there and mind his business and then wind up letting it blow up like
Ooh,
he did?
that's a good one. So do you, if somebody's having a heated argument, do you intervene or do you wait for it to come to blows, too?
I intervene, but I intervene in a way that is not trying to be aggressive, right? I'm like, hey, everybody, let's just calm down, and maybe I don't say calm down because that tends to piss people off. But, you say something to try to diffuse it and just be like, or you distract one of the parties and be like, hey, so-and-so, come here, listen, I need to. And then if you take one of the parties away, there's no argument, there's no fight. Nothing can escalate. But if you just sit up and watch them and talk about I'm minding my business, well, see, it is you're not minding your business because you got to be in a truck with these other three individuals. So it just was stupid. But it has to happen in order for Chicago to get kicked off the trip. So then after Chicago,
But what, so it has to happen for him to get kicked off the trip, but why does he have to get kicked off?
well, he has to get kicked off the trip for what happens next, maybe.
Okay.
But let's talk about how it could have gone down. Okay, so what really happens next is, they've been pulled off on a truck. Chicago's on the side of the road, and now you only got three people, Lucky and Aisha and Justice in the truck. And so then Lucky pulls the truck back over some point later. He just decide to sit on a hill. I guess he's thinking like, man, things is messed up. I got this truck and we argued about this in another video. I don't even think he's like the rightful guy for the truck. He was tagging along. He is a mailman. The person who's supposed to be delivering the truck is probably, I don't know. I think
this probably don't make sense. I think it's supposed to be
Maybe.
a totally different role.
Well, I think that Chicago was in charge of the truck. Like the truck is Chicago's responsibility, but you done kicked him out. Maybe you could be in trouble with work after this. Plus, this dude, even if he's not like your best friend or anything, you clearly have a relationship with him, which is now tarnished because you done this,
Because Justice had your nose wide open.
Yes. So, so he pulls over and he's on a hill and everything. He goes sit, and then Justice sees, and she goes down to see what's going on with him. And then, they have their moment where they look at each other, and then, you always have to have time to do the do on a road trip. And this movie is no different. So they get it on. Now, my argument is the reason he has to be gone is so that let me just think this through. The one reason is now he's a hero because of what Lucky did. He took up for Justice after this guy jumped on her, and now he's a hero. He's looking even more attractive in her eyes, and she's falling for him even more. Like, one of the big things that women like to, and you know what, I'm not even gonna make a blanket statement. The women of a certain age group that I'm most familiar with, and probably most women, want to know that any guy that they would consider being with could be a protector and protect her. And, it makes me think about her, was it Markel or whatever, her original boyfriend who got at the drive-in movies. If he couldn't protect himself, could he protect her? Right? Did she feel safe with him all the time? Is this a thing? So I don't know what dynamic she might have. Maybe we need to explore that a little bit further. But I think he became very attractive in her eyes. And so this is what allows her to go down that hill and give him the cookies. So that's what happens. Now, if Chicago is there, it didn't get ratcheted up. There was no opportunity for Lucky to be a hero. And maybe she doesn't feel for him as fast as she does in these few hours that they've been on this road trip. Maybe that's why he has to get kicked off.
I don't know, because I think that they were already headed there because we saw them bonding at the family reunion, right? So I think it does play more into, kind of giving a reason, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's necessary for them to have, or do they even have to have sex on this trip? Well, I don't
think they did, but for whatever reason.
Yeah. So they could still have a love and still have a breakup too in the same day, because you already showed me, hey, they got together, they eating and having a good time and stuff. So yeah, but I guess it shows that he has he cares about her. Like, that's a way to really show that he cares, right? Because not that he care about women, right? because like you said, he would have stopped that before it even escalated to where it was, or he would have defended Aisha. But he cares about her specifically because of what happened with Chicago, because once he put his hands on her, now he got to do something. So that's a sign.
Yeah. Guys, I want to know in the comments from the men, would you have done what Lucky did, or would you have intervened? Like, how would you have handled that situation? Because I'm always very curious, because what I will say is I recognize that men and women don't necessarily think the same about these things all the time. And times also change. We were just talking the other day about how, these days, you don't even want to have like road rage with people, or, back in the day, you used to just could give them a finger as you drive by if they did something stupid. Now, it could have serious consequences. Now somebody might not be making it home after incidents like that versus, decades ago, people just, they let it go. And I don't know that that's the case now. So maybe what you would have done in the 90s versus today, even
like what
different.
You tell us in the comments isn't what you would tell us if I was standing in front of you.
So they do. So then they get, back in the truck, and then they finish the ride or whatever. And so then they arrive in Oakland, and when they get to Oakland, something sad always gets to happen. But they get to Oakland, and then there's, lights and police and all of that. And then Lucky rolls up and realizes that his cousin has been killed.
Oh, shit, man, it's his cousin.
And he sees them before, he actually sees his cousin there and his aunt and so it's just a whole mess and whatever. So long story short, he's devastated by this, but he then takes and drops the girls back off at the, at the hair show. And then he basically snaps off on Justice and they get in a fight and they break up, or if you can call them even being together. But they have an argument that seems permanent at this point. Because he's like, if I hadn't been fooling around with you, then my cousin, I would have been there. My cousin wouldn't be dead, right?
I got there on time. This never would have happened.
That's very weird. And, you don't know how you're going to act in those moments, but come on now.
Yeah, I thought that was like just messed up. But it's an immature response. And, he was immature.
Did she explain to him what happened to her, though? Had they even gotten there in the relationship?
No. And I feel like maybe that's what happens after the cameras stop rolling on this movie. Like, I like to think on some level that maybe they shared their experiences and realized that they actually had a lot more in common than it might have seemed on the surface, right?
Yeah.
Because, Justice was looking down her nose at Lucky.
Right. And then they just basically broke up and go their separate ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it would have been better if, she kind of helped him through and in turn helps herself, right? Because that's a much better story to rekindle, to show basically a love, right? We showed them break up, get together, break up, and the get together was just, hey, I showed back up with my daughter, right? Instead of maybe you still gotta drive back with them. You know what I'm saying? Hey, not enough room in the car.
I don't think they drove back.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. What can happen is what I'm talking about.
I got you. Yeah.
So then we see how they basically, like, two people, like, they started. They were angry at each other.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you just could contrast that and basically have it in parallel, that would have been probably an amazing movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because we saw at the beginning, they weren't into each other. She want to get out and walk and stuff.
Lucky said he'd apologize.
And all this stuff. And if they would have done that basically in reverse, that would have been cool.
Then that night, this woman who is played by Tyra Farrell, she sees that that Justice has pulled up in this mail truck, and she basically like, who is this lowly man that you dealing with and all of that. And, she has something negative to say about Lucky, because just like Justice was doing in the beginning, they were looking down their nose at other people thinking they were too good and whatever. And so she makes a snide remark. But afterwards, we see Lucky with his family, his aunt and uncle. And his cousin had this equipment.
The music equipment, right? Because he was talking about, oh yeah, my cousin, he was playing the music for him, and Chicago was hating and stuff. That contributed to him kicking him off, basically, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's a hater. And then he had all this music and stuff and this equipment, and then he's talking to the family like, just give it to me.
He about to make something of it.
Yeah, he about to become Tupac.
Uh-huh.
And then they basically end up, allowing him to have the equipment.
Yeah. So then you see him as he's trying to hook the equipment up and almost electrocuting himself and stuff. And then, like at the end, he comes back. He's got his daughter with him. Her hair is toe up and needs to be done.
What's up?
And so he says, well, I know somebody who does hair, and I could use my daughter to make up with her because she's not going to be mean to me in front of my daughter. That's what I really think.
And that thing was good.
And so, he wanted some more of that. So he goes back and, Janet Jackson is there, and he introduces his daughter to Justice.
She's so cute.
It's my baby.
And, you could tell that enough time has passed that Justice could be forgiving toward him.
Was his nails clean?
Yeah. His nails were clean probably at this point. And
No one made a mistake. But everybody make a mistake.
Then, she starts doing the little girl's hair and everything. And she's talking to the little girl. And then, he looks at her and he's just like, you could tell in his eyes to me that he's like, yeah, this is who I need in my life to take care of my daughter, because I surely am not about to do it firsthand. She needs a mother figure that's better than the mother she has. And boy, Janet would make, or I shouldn't say Janet, Justice would make just the perfect stand-in mother for her, and she's all
Yeah.
motherly now, and I should be with her. That to me.
Yeah,
Plus, he
but
liked her. He liked her. I'm not
he
saying he
liked
didn't
her.
like her,
But
but
see, we didn't get anything to see how her friends, basically the co-workers, warmed up to him or nothing. It's just, I think it's a very lazy ending.
yeah. And you know what? We did a video, and I'll link, because we've done a few videos on Poetic Justice before, but we've never actually done like a rundown. And I'll link those videos in the description. One of them we were talking about, like, after the cameras stop rolling, like what happens with their relationship. And, does he get it together? Because, she got that big old house. I mean, and do they make it as a couple or not? That was what we contemplated in that particular video. But when I look at it, I do think it was somewhat of a lazy ending, but it could be, and I see this a lot in films, where you've spent so much time doing everything else and you're like, dang, we getting up against this 2 hour,
Yeah.
this 2 hour long video. And this 2 hour long film, and it can't really go longer. And and I know he had to cut out a bunch of stuff already.
Yeah.
And maybe it's like, okay, this ending is good enough to just know they got together. And then you get the freeze frame of Justice smiling at him, and everything is going to be okay, at least in that moment.
Yeah. Well,
but this is like a cult classic film. If you're one of the younger people, I'm glad that you watched this video. Go watch the movie yourself if you haven't seen it, because just to be able to talk about Black popular culture in cinema, you've got to have seen this film. This is like a must watch 90s movie.
yeah. And as usual, we can't just go through and mention everybody who is in the movie unless y'all actually want us to do that, and we could do that for certain movies. Just go down and look who this person was in this movie and this movie and this movie and this movie, so that you don't be like, I can't believe you didn't mention so-and-so.
Yeah, because this is a rundown. Y'all already know the detail with which when we do a breakdown, how we do these movies, it could be 6-7 parts long of an hour plus each. So where we are with this is just to kind of give you an idea of some of the broader themes that were at play. And we can, if you want, go to the comments and let us know, should we break down some of the scenes? If you want us to break down a particular scene, comment which scene you want to see the breakdown of in the comments below. But overall, when I look back at this movie, and it's nostalgic to me because it just reminds me of what life was back then, and I smile when I think of it, even though there were lots of problems, lots of issues. You had a lot going on around that time. If you think about it, you had Rodney King, you had, other types of turmoil.
Yeah, you had the
political issues.
The uprising, LA uprising in 92, 93.
I still smile when I think of those times, though. I do. And I love the art that came out of this period. And, R.I.P. John Singleton. But like, these are the films that make me think of, my youth, if you will, my kind of coming of age period in my own life. I think this is a great movie.
That's right. So if you made it this far, go ahead and type Cut and Pete in the comments so we'll know you're one of the real ones who stick around.
Cut and Pete? How am I supposed to spell that?
Well, apostrophe.
And be sure to check out one of the videos that's on the screen right now.